President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria has only a slim chance of achieving growth unless the people embrace a change of mindset and commit to nation building through a collective effort. The president, who spoke at last week's opening of the 63rd Nigerian Bar Association Annual General Conference with the theme, Getting It Right, Charting the Course for Nigeria's Nation Building, also warned that Nigeria would no longer sustain an economic philosophy that ensures the wastage of 90% of our revenue on external debt service, amid many development challenges facing the country.
Unless we employ change of mindset, we cannot achieve the desired progress. I'm not being cynical. I'm being factual. The hope is here. The critical changes and bold endeavors will be embarked on by this nation, depending on the cooperation and the collaboration of all of you in the private sector, the drivers of the economic growth and prosperity. Yes, it is a shame not to have electricity for the majority of homes in Nigeria. Yes, poverty is not a shameful thing, but not acceptable. We must banish it. So you all, rigorously thinking of investing in Nigeria must be a dream. But let's interrogate, how did we get here? The hardship. But can we continue to service external debt with over 90% of our revenue? It's a path to destruction. We cannot continue that.
Also, at that lawyers' conference, Nigerian entrepreneur and chairman UBA Group Tony Elumelu called on Nigerians to embrace the concept of Afri-capitalism and approach the task of nation building with determination rooted in the spirit of unity and progress. Elumelu, who noted that he owed his success to Nigeria, urged Nigerians to join hands in nation building and deliver to young ones the future and destiny they so rightly deserve. According to the businessman, there is a need for Nigeria to serve as a beacon of hope for Africa and inspiration for the entire black race. And now, there was also the issue about the artist known as Portable still in the show and hugging the headlines at the Nigerian Lawyers Conference. Critically, his involvement at that event may have threatened to overshadow every other thing that took place before, including position papers delivered and top-level panel discussions which were woven around the theme of the conference, Getting It Right, Charting the Course for Nigeria's Nation Building. President of Nigerian Bar Association, Yakubu Maikyau, was also at the center of all the planning and execution of the event. I called on him to join us on This Day Live for a review of the high points and the theme. He accepted the invitation and he now joins us from our Rise Abuja studio. Good to see you on This Day Live, YC Maikyau, SAN, President of the Nigerian Bar Association. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Uncle Ruben Abati, for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, first, let's start with the theme of the conference so that we focus on the substantive matters. 63rd conference of the NBA annual conference, Getting It Right, and charting the course for Nigeria's nation building. Why should that be the responsibility of lawyers? And what are the major outcomes for you from that conference?
Well, thank you very much. I believe the starting point should be actually giving God Almighty the glory, the honor, and the praise for what I consider a very successful conference. And this is coming from the feedbacks that we've got. This conference has gone down the record as one that has never been. It's unprecedented to have over 16,000 lawyers come together under one roof, registered to attend the conference. This is the first time it is happening, and we give God all the glory for the success of the conference. Now, Getting It Right, charting the course for Nigeria's nation building, as the theme of this conference actually come from the motivation that we got from a statement that was made by Sir Alexander Sapara Williams, who in that statement encapsulated the primary responsibility of every lawyer. And he said the legal practitioner lives for the direction of his people and for the advancement of the cause of his country. And this country, we all know, like any other country, is a function of law. And we are the only ones that are privileged of all professions to be instructed, to be schooled and trained on the subject of law. So we understand the laws better. We understand the concept of the nation. We understand the direction that we need to give the people, because every direction that you would give within this entity called Nigeria is a function of law. And we are the ones that understand these laws, that must give direction with respect to these laws. And the advancement of the cause of this country is also weaved within the ambit of the laws that have been provided. What the cause of this country is, how you operate this country, who operates this country, all of this are a function of the laws. And it's our responsibility to be at the vanguard of providing this direction and also advancing the cause of this nation. It's an exclusive preserve. And I say this with due respect to other professionals. Other professionals can join in the business of advancing the cause of this country, but the lawyers must take the lead. And that is because it is our primary call as members of a learned profession to not only interpret the laws that gave us a country, interpret the laws that gave us the leaders of this country, interpret the laws that tells us the objective of the state and the responsibilities of the state. And we said, well, we have to come because within the context of Nigeria today, there is absolutely no resource that we lack. The human resource we have in abundance, the natural resource we have in abundance. All we need to do is to get it right. And those who must be at the vanguard of getting it right must be the lawyers. And that is why we came up with this team, Getting It Right, charting the course for Nigeria's nation building. And the theme of the conference was weaved around three thematic areas of security, economy, and administration of justice. Understanding the fact that without security, we cannot have economic development. And without economic development, hardly can we even experience the sort of growth that would guarantee the sort of administration of justice that we require. And all of these things are rooted in justice that we dispense to the people. Because absent justice, we cannot have a nation. If we suffer any challenge today, it is because of the absence of justice in the way we conduct ourselves, in the way we administer the instruments or the institution of justice, which have been bedeviled by several factors. So all of these things come together are issues that we believe require the attention of members of the legal profession so that we can properly equip ourselves, position ourselves to deliver on this core mandate of our call as members of the legal profession. And I must express our gratitude to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for accepting to come to this conference and declare the conference open. He has done a great honor to us, and he has also posed a great challenge to the body of lawyers in this country.
Okay.
By not only telling us that...
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes, by not only telling us that he is adopting the theme of the conference and has given an instruction to his ministers to adopt the theme of this conference in pursuing the agenda of his administration, by also calling on us whenever he does anything wrong that we should correct him. He has provided a platform for the members of the legal profession to hold this government accountable on behalf of the people of this country. He has given us the basis and the platform to have an engagement with his own administration with respect to all the things and the promises they have made, the commitments they have made to the people of this country. It is our responsibility, but creating that enabling environment and humbling is himself, as it were, to say that he would subject himself to accountability by the legal profession, for the legal profession to ask questions, for the legal profession to correct him if he's going wrong. I think the president has done us such a great honor, and I want to assure Nigerians that the legal profession will live up to its responsibility of engaging with government for their benefit and also holding government accountable on their own behalf.
Well, NBA president, yes, it's good. We have heard you very, carefully, your point about the theme and the justification for the theme of the 63rd annual NBA conference. But the point you made about President Tinubu, there are many lawyers who question the rationale for inviting the president to come and deliver, the opening address and declare the conference open. Some of them think that the NBA under your watch will seem to be endorsing the president when it is very clear that President Tinubu still has a matter that has to be resolved by the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. What do you say to that?
Well, happily, I started by saying that this country is a country of laws. That Tinubu is president today is a function of laws. It's a function of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's a function of the Electoral Act 2022. What I have done is simply to recognize the position of the law. As far as the law is concerned today in this country, without prejudice to the pendency of the petition against the election and the declaration of President Tinubu, he is the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. When he took the oath of that office, it was because the law prescribed that he took that office. When he was so declared as president, it is because the law also makes provision for such a declaration. This is not a function of anybody's sentiments or whims or caprices. It is about the express provisions of the law. And the law clearly says, and those lawyers that are talking about all of this also know, and they owe the people of this country the duty to properly guide the people, to let them know what the law says. And if they do, the people will fall in line. And there is a presumption of regularity of the act of every public officer. So the law presumes very clearly, and those lawyers are not in doubt. They know, except that they haven't been gracious enough to tell the people that when any public duty or anything has been declared by a public officer, there is a presumption, rebuttable though, that all that needed to be done had been so done, and that the person who made that declaration has the authority to make such a declaration. Did INEC chairman have the authority to make the declaration that he did? Yes. when he declared that Tinubu won the election, there is a presumption that inured in favor of Tinubu as the candidate at that time, now president, under the auspices of APC, that all that needed to be done, all the requirements that needed to be satisfied for him to be so declared president have been satisfied. Who else should I invite? Should I not recognize the provisions of the law and what the law has provided? Are we without a president simply because there is a pending petition? No.
Okay,
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president of this country, and I went to him because I defer to the law, not to the whims and caprices of any particular individual.
Okay.
And if those lawyers say that there is no such presumption under the law, let me know. Let me know. But all of this are without prejudice to what the court is going to determine in the petition. But as it is today, he's the president. I've invited him as president. He came, he declared it as president, and it is within my remit to do so, and it is within also the provisions of the law for me to recognize him as the president.
Okay, Mr. Maikyau, you must have heard, so many Nigerians saying, all eyes on the judiciary, all eyes on the judiciary. Now, one of the issues that came up in the deliberations about access to justice at that conference was about the remuneration of judges. And people were saying, look, if judges are better paid and there are better circumstances, maybe that will make them more efficient. What do you think about the review of judicial remuneration? And what are other ways in which eyes can be taken off the judiciary? Maybe if they are given better pay, maybe perhaps, Nigerians will not be looking at them with bulging eyes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Uncle Ruben. And I'm glad you asked this question. Let me make it very clear that the judiciary in this country is one of the most disciplined arm of government that you can ever find anywhere. And I say this within the context of how the judiciary has been deliberately pauperized. How do I mean? The last time the salaries and allowances of judicial officers would be reviewed in this country was in 2007. As I speak to you, many also do not know the justices of the Supreme Court's salaries is a paltry sum of 750,000 naira. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, before he assumed office, was receiving about that amount of money. But so soon after he assumed the office of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, because according to the provision of the service, he would move into a residence provided for the Chief Justice of Nigeria, his salary dropped to about 450,000 naira. All of these things are totally unacceptable. No country operates a judiciary like that. But in spite of that situation, in spite of how they've been deliberately pauperized by successive governments, the judiciary has kept itself within discipline. And I will say this because it was this same judiciary, when they had the opportunity to deal with the issue that was brought up to the Supreme Court on the Executive Order 10, when all the clamor about the financial independence of judiciary was all over the place, and that Order 10 was taken to the Supreme Court to test the constitutionality of it. The Supreme Court struck down that document. Why? It was meant, as it were, to serve their interest. But they wouldn't do anything outside the provisions of the Constitution. So yes, the Supreme Court has been pauperized. The judiciary in this court in this country have been ill-treated, have been mistreated, but they have remained, they have demonstrated their strength of character. And when you talk about all eyes on the judiciary is corrupt and all of that, all those people who are making the allegations, Uncle Ruben, I've said it in different fora. If you have any evidence against any judicial officer, please let us have it. We will pursue that judicial officer. Of all the judicial officers in this country, how many have been convicted of corruption? You go all out there and make generalized statements about how corrupt they are. If you have an evidence, come and say it. You are even worse than a judicial officer who is practicing corruption or who indulges in corrupt practices. When you have the evidence and you refuse to let us know, because you are hurting the system. You are destroying the fabric of the system that actually holds this country together. And when you also make bare allegations, unsubstantiated allegations, you are also hurting the very fabric upon which this country is held together. Because once the people do not accept the judiciary, once public confidence of the judiciary, of the public confidence in the judiciary is eroded, then you would not have a country in place, Mr. Ruben. You would only have anarchy, you only have chaos. So people who indulge in all of that, please, take time. Don't be in a hurry. If you suspect anything, follow it through until you have the evidence against that judicial officer.
Okay,
but without such evidence, please don't destroy this country. The judiciary in this country has done us proud. The judiciary of this country is one that has kept this country together by reason of his pronouncements. Am I saying that we don't have issues of complaints here and there? Yes, we do. But absent evidence, we should be careful how we speak about the judiciary because we are rocking the foundation of this country. And anarchy and chaos is not the option that is available to us. Okay, so as a Nigerian Bar Association, we've taken the lead to talk about the salaries and emoluments of judicial officers. We have sent a memo to the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. We have sent it to the presidency, and I have no doubt in my mind that this administration is going to do something speedily about the remuneration of judicial officers. We are asking for 300% review. If you go to South Africa, the highest paid public officer is a judicial officer. If you go to Ghana, what our own judicial officers receive, I mean, you can't even, it would be shameful for you to put them on the same plate to consider. So this is something that has to be done. Yes, all eyes on the judiciary. Yes, the judiciary plays an important role in the existence of this country, but the system, the government must make deliberate investment as a matter of emergency in the justice sector. Otherwise, we would lose this country. If we lose the judiciary, we'll lose this country. Okay. Look at how the members of the legislature have been catered for. Only recently we had an upward review of salaries and allowances of permanent secretaries. Okay. Why would we keep the judiciary under the same terms and conditions since 2007, given the concrete economic realities? It's totally unacceptable.
Okay, Mr. Maikyau, I still have about 3 or 4 more questions. I wish we can pack that into the next 10 minutes yes. maximum. But very quickly, about lawyers. Your administration has been has proposed remuneration, guidelines for lawyers, and also a review of professional conduct, guidelines for professional conduct, particularly with regard to terrorism financing and anti-money laundering guidelines. What will be the likely implications for practice? For legal parties and for the public?
We've had, so we've had allegations that members of the legal profession, by their conduct and their practice have been the bane against the success in the fight against money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. So what did we do? We decided to tell the institutions, the agencies that are responsible for the fight against all of these vices, to say that, look, as members of the legal profession, we have the capacity to regulate ourselves. And the fight against money laundering and terrorism financing is a legal fight. And we do not want anybody to come from the outside to tell us what to do. It will be an aberration. You can't be a lawyer and someone who is not a lawyer is coming to tell you that you should fight a legal fight. It is totally an aberration. And given the provisions of the law, we said we will regulate, we will self-regulate ourselves. So we decided that we will bring in those regulations and guidelines within the ambit of the rules of professional conduct for legal practitioners. Why did we do that? We have to demonstrate good faith, that we are prepared to lead the fight against corruption in this country, and also to tell all the agencies that this is our remit, this is our bit, we are the ones that are properly positioned to do that, and we are prepared to do it. So that is why we took that initiative. Secondly, with respect to the remuneration order, we observe that lawyers, the services of lawyers are not being recognized within the country. And that is taking away prosperity from lawyers. People are paid just pittance when they render services. And sometimes some of our colleagues too do not help matters, undercuttings here and there. When a fee of 10,000 naira is supposed to be paid for a particular matter, you go to some other lawyer who accepts 1,000. So we have come up with a new remuneration order that says you cannot do that, and if you do that, you will be held to have misconducted yourself. So we set up minimum fees that you can charge across the country. Why did we do that? We need to reposition our members. We need to bring our members from the place of abdication to the place of responsibility to perform these primary functions that I stated earlier of providing direction to the people. Without strengthening our lawyers in terms of their prosperity, we are not able to perform that position. If we do not demonstrate our ability to fight corruption, nobody is going to listen to us. So that is why we took up this initiative to demonstrate to the Nigerian public that we are in position to provide this service and that lawyers are actually not the stumbling block.
Okay.
And come to think of it, some of the questions that we asked, we probably may not have the time, but Uncle Ruben, if you look at the global index of anti-corruption and money laundering, about $18 trillion is involved across the world. The budget of this country, the entire budget of this country is about 5% of that amount of money. So how can we be responsible for all the money laundering and all the terrorism that are happening in the entire globe, as to be made to go through certain regulations? So we have to balance that regulation and the need for us to have an economy that would cater for 200 million Nigerians while not allow all of these vices to happen in the system. And it is only the lawyers that can strike that balance.
Okay.
And so we are taking the lead in this as well. And this administration is focused on that, and we believe that we are going to deliver on this assignment as well.
Talking about the remuneration of lawyers, which was one of the issues, again, that came up at that conference. Some lawyers raised the question, I think it's the DPP of one of the states, raising the question about pro bono services by lawyers. And why is it that the Enabling Act of the Legal Aid Council does not make enough provision for lawyers to be paid and not be asked to offer pro bono services? I think Professor Ngozi Joy-Ezelo clarified that and said, well, there is provision for some form of remuneration, but it's not as if you charge commercial rates, and that pro bono services will be useful. Yeah. And more lawyers should engage in that. But some lawyers don't think they should offer their services free under the legal aid provision. What do you think?
Well, number one, for any lawyer to say that he's not prepared to offer free legal service, it's actually a demonstration of lack of understanding of the origin of the legal profession. The legal profession, like two other professions, originally never charged fees. The legal profession, the medical profession, and the clergy. So at the core of our calling is pro bono service. And that is why every lawyer is encouraged to participate in pro bono service, and that must be understood. Why Is it that the Legal Aid Council, for instance, is not able to afford fees? Now, over the years, what used to be service we render pro bono, we introduced a bit of a commercial element into it. But like I would always say, never make the money you are paid the motivation for what you do. There is justice that you need to serve. It should be the focus. Legal Aid Council is not properly funded, like the Human Rights Commission, like other statutory bodies. They are not properly funded. So we would call on government, because when you provide legal service, pro bono, somebody is paying the cost. So, and these are costs that government must bear. The reason today we have the Legal Aid Council building named after Chief Chibeze Ikeazo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria of blessed memory, was because he committed his entire life and practice in providing pro bono service. Now he's got a reputation that has outlived him, and we will continue to talk about him. So pro bono service is important. We've set up a pro bono center in the MBA house where we'll be taking in people who would have matters that they cannot afford legal service, and will provide pro bono services to them. That is the way we are changing the mindset of our colleagues to understand that in the heart of our call is pro bono. We have to do this just pro bono. That is how we would earn the confidence of the public. If we earn the confidence of the public, we would also be able to direct them. We will also be able to advance the cause of this nation. But I call on government to make deliberate investment in this institution. The Legal Aid Council is suffering. The Human Rights Commission is suffering. The Council of Legal Education is suffering. Deliberate investment must be made in the legal profession if we must move this country forward.
Mr. Maikyau, I have to start rounding up now, and I'm going to collapse the two questions that I have left. Now, you've been quoted as saying no other profession can fix the country other than the legal profession. But many Nigerians witness a situation whereby the 63rd annual MBA conference was, at the end of the day, almost remembered for a different kind of narrative, which is one, quarrel within the, at the annual general meeting over constitutional amendments, particularly constitutional amendment about whether succession or the election and some other provisions in the MBA constitution. Quarrels about elected national officers saying that they've not been carried along. And above all, complaints about whether it was appropriate to have brought Portable, Abibu Kikiola Zazuze, Portable, as the person to perform at the UNBAD conference. If you could just address these issues very quickly. Because people were now saying, look at lawyers, look at how they are behaving.
Yeah. It is really sad that we have issues like that, but even more sad is the fact that, and thank you, Ruben, for actually being a part of that conference. You had to leave the United Kingdom to come back to moderate these sessions at the conference. You moderated the session on access to justice. You had all the conversations that went on there, the role of lawyers and all of that. The session on economy, you also gave a summary, a synopsis of what happened there. We talked about the security of this country. We had subjects that had to do with the African Continental Free Trade Area. We are the biggest economy on the continent of Africa. What we need to do to position ourselves to take advantage of the free trade area. The security situation across, we brought an Amotekun commander from Ondo State, to come and talk to us about the success of Amotekun, and also the emir of Gumi, who is from Zamfara State. We all know the security challenges across the country, and talked about the administration of justice, what we need to do, the reform of the justice sector. Ruben, all of these things are things that bedevil us today as a nation. And we came together to provide solutions. But what Nigerians are concentrating about, in spite of the robust conversation that we had there, and the fact that some people were fighting, some people, we brought Portable and all, isn't that an aberration? Should we be paying attention to all of these things? But let me say that the issue of the national officers being not happy with the administration. I explained very clearly at the annual general conference, annual general meeting of the Nigerian Bar Association. These are issues that have to do with me insisting on my commitment to protect and be frugal with with the funds of the Nigerian Bar Association. No more, no less. Number two, the issue of the constitutional amendment. They rejected the constitutional amendment without knowing the contents of the constitutional amendment, which is also unfortunate. Those who got them to reject the constitutional amendment perhaps didn't read it. Those who rejected it did not read it. Uncle Ruben. So in that constitutional amendment, we have a provision for the increase of the remittances that our members will enjoy in the payment of bar practicing fee from 10% to 20%. They rejected it. Is it going to benefit me as the president? No. They would be the ones to benefit 20% remittance. Number two, we have created a provision to have a stabilization fund within the Constitution. Why did we do that? So that to avoid a situation where a president would come or national officers would come who may not have interest of our colleagues at heart of our members and begin to touch the stabilization fund. We'll put it in the Constitution, ring fence it. It will be used to backstop any access to finance, which is a program we're extending particularly to our young lawyers. They would use it, it is there, we give comfort to the bank, a financial institution, and then the members are protected. They rejected that. They rejected all of that. We also have provisions in the Constitution that would guarantee some of the institutions that must be established in the new legislations that we have, the remuneration order, the anti-money laundering laws and guidelines under the rules of professional conduct. They rejected that. And we said some of the national officers, the role, we talk about a bloated National Assembly, for instance. And if we can accuse mainstream politicians or even the provision of the Constitution of voting so much money to take care of what we describe as bloated legislature, why should we keep a bloated National Executive Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association when we can restructure ourselves and spend less for the national officers, and whatever we are saving, we apply it to the members of the association? Like I said, 50 million naira. 50 million naira was spent between October and August this year. It would have given me 3,000 of our colleagues. 50,000 million was spent on the national officers. We would have gotten 3,000 of our colleagues on the NHIS. National officers came because of conference, except for the first vice president, and moved to stay in Transcorp Hilton.
On that note.
Why? These are funds that were put together for all of us. And you want to go for conferences, we would pay 78, 79 million naira. That is the estimate if we have to sponsor them. And it's all from our bar practicing fee. And I'm saying, no, we shouldn't do that. These gentlemen, our colleagues, have done us the honor of electing us. No one else in the association can claim to be who we are in the positions that we occupy. It is a great honor. We would never be able to pay them. Let us use this opportunity to make sacrifices for our colleagues. Our harvest will come later.
Okay, on that note.
That is the only reason why we had those issues.
On that note.
So the issue of portable, for me is inconsequential, and please let's focus on the substance of this conference and take the benefit and help Nigerians get out of the woods. Okay. Thank you very much, Uncle Ruben.
On that note, we would like to thank you very much, YC Maikyau, SAN, President of the Nigerian Bar Association, reviewing the annual 63rd conference of the Nigerian Bar Association.